Did you know that more than you realize? Did you know that you have more than you realize? Did you know that with your memory, if you took the time to think about it, you would be probably a lot calmer than being upset by watching everything that's been going on around you, if you took the time just to remember. And that is what this video is about today. I'm Linda Forsyth from Seabine, and we're going to take a walk down memory lane and help to remind you of some things. And I'm afraid because of all the ungodly drama. Oh my gosh, lately we're talking now about aliens. So the diversions, when it gets to be this much diversions going on, you know something's up, right? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we are just going to have a little discussion and going over a few things. Okay, going back here to a report that I just did. And this, in the meantime, is the Seabine website, the c-bine.com website. And the report that I'm going to be going over is actually right here, this one right here. And it's an opinion piece remembering Riyadh and the summit that was going on in 2017, the sword dance, arrest of Saudi officials, and it just might reveal the first domino to fall, which is going to show you how close it really is. But with that being said, that's c-bine.com, c-bine.com. And while I'm here, please go ahead and become a member, even though there is no paywall. This is all free of charge to watch. But if you go ahead and become a member, I can send you out some regular newsletters. And also, if you become a paying member, it helps to support us because we're going to be really busy now. We're going to be going to Fort Meade, watching the GTMO proceedings that's going on there. Which is exactly the same as what's going on in actual GTMO. It's a live CCTV feed. But I'm going to tell you about that, more of that on another time. Let's go ahead and get back exactly to what we were going to be talking about today. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read you this report. And please go to the website if you want to see some of the links that I have here and check it out a little bit closer, pass it on, whatever it is you like to do. Okay, so opinion, remembering the Riyadh Summit sword dance and the 2017 arrest of Saudi officials, and that just might reveal the first domino to fall. The U.S. government continues to keep a Saudi official's name classified. The Saudi name, which could potentially blow the entire 9/11 case wide open. A classified name for well over 20 years that's prompted a federal lawsuit brought on by the 9/11 victims and family members in 2012 for its release. A name who allegedly could be the true 9/11 orchestrator, or at least lead to the true orchestrators of the most heinous terror attack in American history. Considering the KSM et al. 9/11 pre-trials haven't yet made it to tribunal after over 20 years, and we're now in plea deal negotiations, there is a growing rumble of serious concern, especially when time is taken to peruse the ongoing saga as to why. But that is not what this report is about. In a previous report, I promised to go over a few reminders of historical facts above and beyond the recently released Canestraro report that may cause you to look at this with a very different set of eyes. I will not be telling you what to think, but guiding toward accomplishing your own fact-checking of public access information. Sometimes it helps to simplify the mountains of data being thrown at you in order to have a clearer picture to connect the dots. But first, here is an abbreviated history of the key points in a Canestraro report. and what was said in case you missed it last week. These are just a couple of quick points to bring you up to speed. Okay, you can click on this link to actually read what I'm going to be giving you in abbreviated points about, but this is the entire report. It's link connected. But ex-FBI agents accuse top CIA, FBI officials of 9/11 cover-up. Read the report here, so just click on that. Canestraro said in a brief interview with Florida Bulldog that he is part of the defense team for Guantanamo detainee Ammar al-Baluchi, a Pakistani citizen who is awaiting trial with 4 other men accused of planning the 9/11 attacks. This declaration includes the results of his interviews with 11 ex-FBI agents, 2 ex-CIA agents, a CNN investigative journalist, former Deputy National Security Advisor Richard Clark, and former Senator Bob Graham, Democrat Florida, co-chair of Congress's Joint Inquiry into 9/11. Weeks before 9/11, an angry New York FBI agent nearly came over the table at CIA officials who were blocking him from obtaining intelligence about 2 al-Qaeda terrorists who would soon take part in hijacking an American Airlines passenger jet and crashing it into the Pentagon. Someone is going to die, the counterterrorism agent wrote in a bitter email shortly after the 2001 encounter. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of a heads up about what that report was about. This is the Office of Military Commissions investigator Donna Canestraro that we're talking about. In the 22-page declaration, first obtained by the national security website Spy Talk, is not confidential, but rather it's marked CUI, controlled unclassified information. The Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency defines CUI as a government-created or owned information that requires safeguarding or dissemination controls consistent with applicable laws, regulations, and government-wide policies. Okay, now, as an added side note, this is important, the above statement is disputed by a government official with knowledge of the military commissions who states Canestraro's statement is redacted on the OMC website. So in other words, if it was redacted, it was classified. So then just to clarify, I further ask if it was redacted before the initial report was released, and the answer was statement redacted before. Okay, all righty then. So this is a story that was a classified leak. We shall see what kind of worms this is going to open up. In the meantime, interesting diversions appear to be cropping up elsewhere, so it may be difficult to keep our focus. That being said, the following are additional abbreviated points. There's just a couple here, bear with me, that the initial report went over. That the CIA and its director at the time, George Tenet, deliberately withheld information before 9/11 from the FBI about a possible attack. That the CIA initially tried and failed to recruit several 9/11 hijackers, notably Khalid al-Mandhar and Nayaf al-Hazmi, to spy on bin Laden and the al-Qaeda network. That after the 9/11 attacks, the CIA and even the FBI conspired to withhold information about the alleged Saudi links from the 9/11 Commission and other congressional investigations. That the FBI agents who testified before the 9/11 Commission and a joint congressional inquiry were told by their superiors not to reveal the full extent of Saudi links to 9/11. That the much praised National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States, the 9/11 Commission, led by former New Jersey Governor Tom Keene, deliberately did not fully pursue an investigation of purported Saudi connections and instead limited its staff from a deeper inquiry. Okay, so in my personal opinion, while the information release is a step forward for, especially after 20 years, this leak is beginning to smell to me like the beginnings of another series of court battles that could rage on for many more years. Therefore, it is important at this point to step back, and give a reminder of circumstances outside of the catastrophic leak. Listen closely and you tell me if you see what I do. Okay, so a lawsuit. This is going to give you a timeline of events that you need to be aware of in order to make your decision on what you think is going on. A lawsuit was filed in a 2012 federal court by the victims and family members of 9/11 to reveal the name of a key Saudi official testified as the alleged true orchestrator of the 9/11 terror attacks. Bear with me, folks. I know what you're thinking. Okay. The testimony was immediately redacted and deemed classified information. Years of court proceedings took place afterwards without success to have the Saudi official's name released. The last step took place when Attorney General Bill Barr had the deadline of September 12, 2019 to make the final declassification decision. Barr ultimately decided to release the name under seal to the attorney for the 9/11 victims and family members, the legal defense team for KSMNL, and the legal defense for the Saudi official. Those are the people that actually received the sealed name. About a month before Barr's actual deadline, mainstream media released a name to the public under the guise of following a report with the name leak. So in other words, they acted like they were releasing the name. But what I'm about to show you is, because they said they accidentally leaked a release, and I have this link here that you can click on to listen to exactly what was stated in mainstream media at that time about, oh, we have the leaked name, we know who it is. So listen to it. It's interesting. And the reason I want you to listen to it, I'm not going to take the time to do it now, but you can go to the report and you can listen to it, is because on October 28th, Jim Kreindler, who is the attorney for the victims and family members, he put out a 2-hour presentation. And in that presentation, one of the things, he mentions quite a few things that I highly recommend that you take the time and you listen to the entire thing, because he goes over everything that in his perspective in being there and what has been happening in behind the scenes of 9/11. But one of the things that he brings up is actually at the 3-minute mark on this video, which I'm going to play for you here. And then also towards the end, he brings up some information about Khashoggi. And I cannot bring it up on here for various reasons, but take the time and listen to what he says. So I'm going to play for you now what it is that he states.
Belief in the integrity and efficacy of our government. Talking to you now, I'll make a prediction. By the time we're done, you will be revolted and horrified to learn what prominent members of our government, including past presidents, have done. You will be equally amazed and thrilled with the courage and determination of a few private citizens and former FBI agents who have beaten the government and defeated the largest lobby effort in the world's history. To begin with 9/11, as Dan said, when all of you came in the room, if asked, well, what did Saudi Arabia have to do with 9/11? The first thing you'd say is 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi nationals. Some of you who pay particular attention to this might also make the comment that Dan made, and Saudi Arabia has been known to give money to charities who in turn funded Al-Qaeda. But the fact is, 9/11 was an attack on the United States with the active intent and cooperation from 11 known Saudi government officials. Saudi Arabian government officials were the accomplices without whom there never could have been a 9/11 attack.
Okay, so I'm pausing this right here just for a moment here. Okay, clicking escape to go back. Sorry, excuse me. All right. So when we go back here, looking at this, remember there is 11 Saudi officials, not only just Saudi officials, but we're talking, not the government officials, but also business people, prominent business people, and etc. There is 11 of them. So this proverbial leak that mainstream media was going, we know the name, was number one, a low man on the totem pole. Number two, it appears that is one of the names that Canestraro is talking about. And when you read that report, I don't know. You go ahead and decide that. But I am reemphasizing there were 11, total of 11 names. Okay, so enough of that for the time being. All right, so now I'm going to move forward in these other points and we'll go through these very quickly. A lawsuit was filed in a 2012 federal court. Oh, I already did that. I'm sorry. Okay, so now that the background has been laid out, let's go back to the beginning of Trump's presidency and observe closely the dates in the timeline of events. On March 14th, I've got these highlighted. So when you go to the report to read it, note the dates and the year. On March 14th, 2017, Deputy Crown Prince Salman was the very first international official granted an audience with President Trump. First visits are usually considered a great honor. Interesting question everyone should be asking is why this Saudi visit was conducted by a deputy crown prince. Future may prove past in this case. Okay, it's supposed to be a huge honor to be able to be the first one requested as an audience by the President of the United States. And so he requests the Deputy Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Here's a picture of them together. Okay, next point. On May 20th to 21st in 2017, just a couple of months after March, President Trump attends the 2017 Riyadh Summit, which was his very first visit overseas. It was at this time Trump participated in the infamous sword dance where he held the sword. You know what that means? Okay, I have a limited I can say on here, but if you don't know, you need to look it up, but it has a very significant meaning. This visit was significant because it appears to have bearing on many future happenings. All right, so that's just a reminder. October 1st in 2017, the Las Vegas massacre occurred. Of note, mega billionaire Al-Walid bin Talal was the owner of the top 4 floors in Mandalay Bay Hotel. Okay, and here it shows where the shooting was to have happened and etc. So that's just a note, a name to remember. Going forward, not even to the end of the month, the end of October 2017, the first Q post began. Now, this is a side note. Not quite a month later, post number 158 was released on 11/20/17 and asked a number of questions worth looking up. It can't be posted here. Carefully review the many questions in that particular post and then review the following timeline of events with a different set of eyes, specifically who controlled a large portion of the Twitter stock at the time. Spoiler alert, Al-Walid bin Talal. Okay, Saudi official, big one. All right, on November 4th, okay, just a couple of days after October in 2017, the Saudi Arabian purge began and resulted in the mass arrest of a number of prominent Saudi Arabian princes, government ministers, and business people in Saudi Arabia because of an anti-corruption committee led by Deputy Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the behest of the king. They were incarcerated in the gilded cage of the Ritz-Carlton, Riyadh. And here is a link to the actual story that goes on. But I think this is kind of interesting that he states, let me move this out of the way, Saudi Arabia ends $100 billion corruption drive dismissed by critics as a power play. At that time, they were really coming down on bin Salman, really coming down on him, saying he was taking over power, and the media, mainstream media, was attacking bin Salman and continues to attack bin Salman. Okay, but right after the October 1st massacre in Las Vegas, these things happened in very close succession. Okay, so there's a link to this report, and again, it would behoove you to go ahead and look at it. All right, so after that, in June, okay, not that much longer, June 2017, Deputy Crown Prince Salman, at that time, becomes Crown Prince per the orders from King Salman because of corruption. He later becomes Prime Minister. Okay, there's a link to a video I'm going to have you watch that goes over all of this in much more detail, along with video data for you to look at. Just goes straight through. I'm just going through this quickly, so bear with me. Okay. Moving forward a couple of years, in January of 2019, this is where you guys really need to pay attention. In January 2019, President Trump authorized citizens to view the GTMO military commissions live via CCTV with a 40-second delay at Fort Meade. For some reason, it really didn't get out there, but what did get out there were a number of individuals reporting some disinformation about what was going on at GTMO. That is what did get out there. But this information didn't get out there. The only reason I knew about it is because Leonard Bacani, who's a trustee of CBIND, happened to see a press release looking for citizen journalists to come and apply to not only report the trials at GTMO, but also was saying it showed that the citizens could just come there on Fort Meade. So we applied for GTMO. Okay, so reading this, now we went through a huge background check, all of us did. And it was quite an ordeal in what we had to go through, and we were not accepted to be official reporters. But we were told by the Office of Military Commissions that in Fort Meade, there was a special room that you could view live all the GTMO proceedings exactly as if we were in Guantanamo Bay at GTMO. Same thing, live via CCTV with a 40-second delay, no difference whatsoever. And he advised us to be able to go and watch that. And so that's what we did. So our very first time in seeing that was very first time it was allowed, January of 2019. Now, I'm looking back here after what I'm reporting, after closely observing the majority of that year in 2019, I now know why the proceedings were opened up at that time. Trump truly is 10 steps ahead as I look back in hindsight. The opening up was a precision play, in my opinion. We were all given the opportunity to know exactly what was going on and or the lack thereof in order to fact check inaccurate news. I personally think he knew what was going to be put out there. You decide. Attending these trials in Fort Meade is the only way I do. Only way. And working closely with some of the people, the Office of Military Commissions, walking me through, teaching me what the regulations are and how things work and etc. And watching everything else going on, watching it all unfold before my eyes and realizing that just a few volunteers, because hardly anyone was there in Fort Meade. There was a couple more people than usual on the very first day of the proceedings, because that is the day that the very first day of proceedings, that's when all of the defendants have to show up. Usually they're not there the rest of the time. They can be, but they choose not to be. For 20 years, I don't blame them. But that is the only time it's there. And it was mostly law students and so on that were there. That was the majority of the people. I can't even remember a couple of just regular lay people showing up. I find that incredibly interesting now that I look back on it. Okay, back in July of 2019, KSM, Khalik Sheikh Mohammed, the main supposed orchestrator, was willing to release the Saudi official's name as the key 9/11 orchestrator in exchange for removal of the death penalty, but the prosecution denied ever offering that as a possibility. I kept the Wall Street Journal report link just in case, and but now it's behind a paywall. But I put the link here anyway. You can see that back then they were Khalik Sheikh Mohammed was willing to name the name. And so after that, Attorney General Bill Barr had until September 12, 2019, in order to declassify the Saudi official's name as the true orchestrator of 9/11. Did he do it? Yes and no. As I mentioned earlier, part of it went to, the name was under seal. It remained classified, but under seal, it was given to Jim Kreidler, which is the attorney for victims and family members. It was given to the defense team of 9/11, and it was given to the representing attorney legal team for this Saudi official. Okay, so there's something going on there in Saudi. There's still, that right there tells you that there's something going on in a court of law. Wouldn't it be interesting? This is a side note, just as a supposition. If all these trials that are going on in GTMO right now, I don't know, maybe the real trials are going on in Saudi because of what's going on from their country, and they're looking at things. Something to consider. Again, I don't believe it is just Saudi officials. I believe this is leading to much, much more. Okay, so they're being very, very careful. All right. Fast forward. Trump had a controversial golf tournament having to do with Saudi. Do you remember that? I was looking for images of this, and there were a lot of mainstream media, and even some, well, I'm going to call them rhinos, whatever, were also very, very upset that this golf tournament, which had to, it was basically working along with Saudi. It's like, why would he do that? Why would he do that? Well, it's just something to consider. And this is one of the pictures that cracks me up. Trump and Tucker Carlson laugh as chants of "Let's go Brandon" ring out across. So anyway, why would he do that? Especially if he's going to be running for president. Something tells me something's going to happen fairly quickly here. Okay, there's a reason. All right, so going back, we're almost here to the end. Crown Prince bin Salman negotiates the release of Brittany Griner after White House drops lawsuit against Saudi having to do with Khashoggi. What? Bin Salman, Crown Prince bin Salman, is the one that negotiated the release of Brittany Griner. Okay, here's the link. I'm going to click on it here. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to open up. All right, let's look at this a minute. Oh, for Pete's sake. Okay, Saudi leader Mohammed bin Salman helped broker Brittany Griner's swap after White House ended Khashoggi suit. Remember I told you before that Jim Kreindler had a statement at the end of his video that I put up at the beginning? You need to go back and really look at who Khashoggi was, not from the eyes of mainstream media who basically are accusing bin Salman as the one who murdered a U.S. Reporter in cold blood and so on. So that's what the lawsuit was about, and they dropped it in order for Mohammed bin Salman to help broker Brittany Griner's swap. Oh my gosh. So if it was true that bin Salman murdered Khashoggi, they were willing to just let that go in exchange for dropping a lawsuit if he would get Brittany Griner back. Really? Okay, that's just kind of interesting, don't you think? Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman helped broker the dramatic prisoner swap between U.S. and Moscow that sprang World News, WNBA star Brittany Griner from Russian gulag days after the Biden administration helped spike a lawsuit against the Saudi ruler. Mohammed bin Salman, as the Saudi leader, is known as the United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, led mediation efforts between the two nations whose diplomatic ties have been badly frayed by the war in Ukraine, according to Arab News. Griner was traded for Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer who plotted to help South American terrorist attacks in the U.S. The ministry said the success of the mediation efforts was a reflection of the mutual and solid friendship between their two countries in the United States and Russia. Read a joint statement from Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. They also highlighted the important role played by the leadership of the two brotherly countries, etc., and so on. Okay, I just thought that definitely was a situation of note, don't you think? All right. Okay, I've lost where I was. Here I am. I think I just closed down my. All right, so going back to the report and scrolling down here, which, we're pretty much at the end. Keep in mind that these things that are going on, you've already seen this, or maybe some of these you haven't. These things you're going to have to start paying more attention to and remembering. There is a lot going on behind the scenes, and they can't let you know everything that's going on, because what you know, they know. So you're not meant to know, but you are given just enough if you take the time, not only to remember, but to go back and look at those first 150 posts. Read them carefully. I think you're going to find it's going to read out exactly what it is you need to know. All right, so I mentioned I was going to provide a link to the previous report if you want to watch that video. It's a video that I had used a lot of the clips from Charlie Freak, who he did an excellent job in putting out all this information together and gathering data for you to fact check. And so that's a link that I showed quite a while ago, and everyone loved it. So go ahead and take the time to watch it. But in the meantime, just know that tomorrow when I do my daily GTMO report, I'm going to talk about how you can go down and you can watch the upcoming GTMO trials that are going on. I'm going to be doing a lot more reports, but I just wanted to get this information out there to help remind you, because they're really ramping up the diversions, really ramping them up, that we're okay. We really are. Just don't let the fear mongering get to you, but definitely keep your head on a swivel. It's going to be it's going to be important that you do so. All right, everybody. I will see you tomorrow, and talk in the comments. I'm going to be reading them after this, and we'll see what you have to say, what your thoughts are, and we'll be moving forward exactly as we're supposed to be. Have a good night, everyone.